Memories from childhood are often faded and warped to appear more frightening than they are, but this was real, and I think I remember the events with greater detail now than when they first took place. As a young boy growing up in the Midwest, my life consisted of going to school, climbing trees, watching movies, and playing board games with my parents. It was a simple existence, and looking back I see how thankful I should have been. My story begins in an odd and unconventional location, the bathroom. Like any young boy, I wasn't one to stand in front of my bathroom mirror longer than necessary, but one night I decided to study my face more closely. All of my mom's friends had started commenting on how much I was growing to look like my dad. I've always had his dirty blonde hair and blue eyes, but I suppose my face was maturing into an even closer resemblance. As I looked into my own pale blue eyes, I saw my reflection do something I had never seen it do before: blink. I rubbed my eyes hard, letting the splotchy galaxies confuse my vision. When they cleared, I lifted my eyes back to the reflection. No blinking. I must have been more tired than I thought. I was imagining things. I brushed my teeth for 20 seconds and went to bed. But the slight discrepancies between me and my mirror continued. Sometimes I would start combing my hair before my reflection combed his, other times he beat me to it. It is amazing what our minds begin to accept over time, because I stopped questioning these events after a couple of months. The glitches in my reflection resulted in me spending more time at my bathroom sink than before. I examined myself often. It was the first thing I did when I woke up, and the last thing I did before I went to sleep. I started noticing slight changes in my appearance. First it was a dark brown ring around my pupils, then a slight darkening of my hair. I guess my mom's friends were wrong about me favoring my dad's side. Eventually, the brown rings that hugged my pupils expanded outward to envelop the entirety of my irises, and my hair was now a dark, chocolatey color. I know it seems absurd that anyone would be unbothered by such a dramatic change in appearance, but they all happened so gradually, and no one else seemed to notice it either. One day, after the bus dropped me off from school, I flung my backpack on the nearest chair and loudly announced, "Mom, I'm home." There was no response. I walked to the dining room table and found a note. "Out running last-minute errands for dinner tonight. Be back at 5:30. Mom." I flopped down on the couch and turned on the TV. I was only about 5 minutes into the program when the doorbell rang. I never liked answering the door. It was always someone trying to sell me the world's greatest garden hose, or someone with a question I couldn't answer. Plus, my mom had drilled into me from a young age, "Don't answer the door when no one is home." I had resolved to ignore the visitor. Before finishing my thoughts, there came another ring. Their persistence and impatience annoyed me. I was convinced more than ever not to answer. I muted the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to listen for the sound of departing footsteps. Instead, I was jolted by a loud, heavy knock. A pit of anxiety was growing in my stomach. What if it was an emergency? What if it was the police? I tiptoed as quietly as possible to the window outlooking our front yard. There was no car in our circle drive. I slowly peered around the corner to see if the person was visible. I was surprised to see a young boy, no older than me. I walked over to the front door and opened it. "Hi. My name is Tate, and I just moved in down the road. My mom heard there was a boy the same age as me in this house and said we should meet." "Oh," I replied. "It's nice to meet you. I'm Nate." My visitor laughed. "Wow, Tate and Nate. I guess we were meant to be friends." "Yeah," I responded with less enthusiasm. I had always been wary of new people, and I was still uneasy about my parents being gone. "Listen, I'm actually home by myself right now, so it would probably be better if you waited until my mom was here." "Ah, but I can only play for a little bit." "Seriously, I'll only stay until like 5:15. I considered the situation. After staring into his pleading blue eyes, I relented. "Okay, come on in." Tate and I had a remarkable number of things in common. We both loved Legos, Star Wars, board games, and playing ninjas. We also shared some of the same quirks, like putting ketchup on popcorn. We were also both nail biters, though Tate claimed to have recently quit the habit. We laughed at the same stupid jokes, and just got along really well. "We're so similar, we could be brothers," I commented excitedly. "Yeah, right," Tate said through a chuckle, "except we look nothing alike." "Well, you actually kind of look like my dad," I responded. I had no time to ponder the resemblance before Tate suddenly exclaimed, "Oh gosh, I have to go." I looked at my wristwatch. The short, red lightsaber was pointing between the 5 and the 6, the longer green one was at the 5. It was 5:25. "Oh, but my mom will be back soon. You might as well stay another 5 minutes and meet her. She'll like you." Tate adamantly insisted that he couldn't stay another minute, and I begrudgingly let my new friend go. "Don't worry, I'll see you again soon," he called as he ran across our lawn. And he did see me again soon. In fact, Tate and I hung out almost every day, always after school, and never when my parents were around. I did tell my mom and dad about Tate, but looking back they must have thought I made him up. Between my lack of real friends and Tate's similarity to me, they chalked him up to a figment of my imagination. On a particularly hot day in April, Tate and I were determined to see who could outrun the other. This proved to be an exhausting task, as each time one of us seemed to take a lead, the other sped up to match it. We called it a tie in the end, and as Tate was walking away I rushed inside to use the bathroom. Our time together was too entertaining to waste it on peeing. As I ran to the toilet, something about the bathroom mirror caught my attention. It was only in my periphery, so I could have imagined it, but there was no reflection. By the time I turned for a double take, my mirrored image was staring back at me, and my urgent need to relieve myself took immediate precedence over my weird mirror. After I was done peeing, I returned to my vanity to wash my hands. As I raised my gaze to the mirror, I realized that I had only studied my face in the mirror, never the rest of my body. I held my dripping hands up to the mirror and noticed something that made me uneasy: my nails. They had smooth, rounded edges. They weren't long, per se, but they certainly weren't the raw, bloody stumps I was used to. I switched my focus down to my own bitten nails. Confused as I was, the only thing to do at that moment was shower off the accumulated sweat and dirt from the day. As I washed myself, I occasionally glanced past the semi-transparent shower curtain towards the bathroom mirror. I thought I could see a figure moving in the reflection, though the steam from the shower made everything foggy and indistinct. I felt too hesitant to look closely. That night, I laid in bed contemplating all the oddities together for the first time. The glitches in my reflection filled me with dread as I realized how abnormal they were. I know now that while I thought I was putting the pieces together, there was much of this mystery that I did not understand. I still felt unnerved the next morning. I got ready for school without once looking up at my reflection. My mom knew something was wrong when I wouldn't eat my oh-so-nutritious Lucky Charms. "Are you all right, sweetie?" she asked in her soft, comforting mom voice. "Yeah, I'm fine. I just didn't get a lot of sleep last night." I had already decided not to tell my parents about what had been happening. I didn't know where to start, and how could they possibly believe me? There was only one person who I thought might understand: Tate. "I love you." My mom kissed my forehead on my way out the door. I was too dazed to respond. After stumbling through the school day like a zombie, I waited for Tate from my front porch. As he approached, he noticed how solemn and still I was. "You look dead," he said lightly. I couldn't respond. I couldn't move. "Hey," Earth to Nate. "Come in, Nate," he said loudly. "Sit down," I mumbled. He obeyed silently, a quizzical look set on his face. I explained everything to him. My voice was shaky, but I didn't spare any details. By the end, I was on the verge of tears with anxiety. "Hey, you're my best friend. We'll figure something out, together. For right now, you need to eat something so you look less like a ghost. I'll make sandwiches." Even though it wasn't a solution, Tate's gesture made me feel better, and I felt less alone knowing that we were on the same page. We ate our sandwiches, which we fixed exactly the same way, with ketchup instead of real tomatoes. Then we sat down to watch TV. I got so sleepy that I couldn't keep my eyes open. A force seemed to be pulling my eyelids shut. Thinking that this was my body trying to catch up from last night, I let sleep overtake me. When I woke up, everything was different. I opened my eyes to a new world. I sat up, rubbing my eyes even harder than when I saw my reflection blink at me for the first time. I was surrounded by trees. They extended further and further in the distance, as far as my vision stretched. They were tall, thin, and black, and they rippled like TV static against the blank, white landscape. There was no sound. The silence was dense enough to give me a headache. My thoughts felt distant and fuzzy, but with what little mentation I had, I stood, and began walking. I felt weightless, as if I was drifting through a dream. My feet made no sound or impression in the white, ashy grass. I wandered aimlessly in an unknown direction. After walking for what could have been minutes, hours, or days, my eyes caught hold of something that wasn't a static tree. For the first time since I awoke in this strange place, I partially sprung back into consciousness. I drew closer and knelt down to examine a large, gaping hole in the ground. As I leaned in, the sudden presence of sound made me fall back again. It was the sound of voices, my parents' voices. I reapproached the chasm, and through it I saw my living room. Relieved, I called out to my parents as they sat on the couch. My voice echoed in the abyss, but my parents gave no answer. I looked on, my heart dangling from a thread. They chatted pleasantly about the movie they had selected for the night. As the movie was about to start, a boy joined them. Even in the darkened room I knew him. It was Tate. The string holding my heart snapped. "I love you, Nate," my mom said as she stroked Tate's head, brushing his dirty blonde hair out of his eyes. "I'm so glad you are doing better than this morning, sweetie." My eyes filled with tears, my stomach with bile, my soul with despair. I tried to think, but my head spun like a cement mixer, the dense, heavy thoughts sloshing around my brain. Tate and I really were identical, I thought. But we weren't identical. We were mirrored.